In this video, I'll be going through some demonstration problems at the end of Chapter 10. First one we'll look to is, actually the first group of the problems we'll be discussing relate to the assignment in Connect, but I've altered some of the data. And I'd like to kind of walk through and discuss how to approach some of these problems. So again, these are problems found, both some of them are in Connect, but all of them are found at the end of the chapter. The first one relates to multiple choice number 32. And multiple choice number 32 is found on page 10-37, where Duan has two jobs. Both employers withheld FICA tax. From his first job he earned, and then using my amount, $104,000. And from his second job he earned $30,300. How much can Duan claim as an additional payment from his Form 1040 as excess Social Security paid? And this comes up sometimes when employees are working for two different employers, and of course they're not coordinating the amount of Social Security withholding, so it's possible that cumulatively the employee, in this case Duan, may have too much withheld. We know, for example, that for Social Security, the maximum amount of gross earnings that are subject to withholding are $128,400. After that threshold is reached, the employee is no longer required to pay Social Security tax. Well, each job is below that threshold, but cumulatively they're above the $128,400. So then to calculate the excess paid in 2018, we would add together the two incomes from the jobs, 104 using my altered data in green, and the 30,300 given in the problem. And we would compare that to the 128,400 maximum Social Security threshold, and then multiply that by 6.2%, which is a Social Security withholding for the employee. And it turns out, in using my numbers, that the employee paid excess of $366 of Social Security taxes. So for problem number 49, we're going to jump over to page 1040. So problem 49, page 1040, Allison is paid $1,325 per week. I changed that to $1,350. Single, 2 allowances. And the number of allowances to claim, we'd have to go back to the inside the chapter, and if you look on page 10-5, you see a 2018 amount for withholding allowances, and this is the amount per withholding allowance based on the frequency of payment. And in this case, the frequency is weekly, so that would be $79.80 per week. And of course there are two withholdings, and so $79.80 times 2, a total of $159.60 for the allowance amount, I should say. So the allowance amount is the $79.80 allowance per withholding times 2 withholding is the $159.60. So the income then subject to taxation would be my $1,350. Subtract the $159.60 would give $1190.40. All right, that's the first step. Now, using the percentage method, we have to go and look to the end of the chapter. And let me just highlight this. And if you look at the end of the chapter, there is, and this is on page 10-43, there is a percentage method table for income tax withholding. So in this case, we have a single taxpayer. And if you find on the left column, we have the single taxpayers. And because this is a weekly, it'll be the very top panel. And then we look at the amount of wages. $1,350 means that we will have $85.62 of income tax plus 22% of the difference between the 1190.40 and the amount listed in the table, which is $815. So we'll take 12% of the difference between 1190.40 and $815, multiply that by 22%, and then add that to 85.62, and that will give the federal income tax to be withheld from Alice's paycheck. Changing the scenario slightly, now the married filing status, the status is married, I should say, and the filing status is going to married with now 3 withholdings. I've changed that. Income stays the same using my altered value of $13.50 per week. And again, it's $79.80 per on the withholding side, because the taxpayer is paid weekly, times the 3 withholding allowances, and that would give $239.40. Subtract that from our $13.50, and the amount subject to federal taxation then is $1110.60. So $1110.60 is the amount we would go to the tables to calculate. And again, going to the end of the chapter, we see that it's now for married is $36.60 plus the difference between $1110.60 and $588 times 12%. Add those together, and we wind up with a tax obligation of $99.31. All right, I'm going to jump down then to number 52, the end of the chapter. This 2 is found on page 10-40, number 52. I did change in this case scroll up a little bit, the monthly amount paid, the annual amount, paid, which is now $114. So I changed it from $113,840 listed in the problem to $114,000 for the amount paid annually. Taxpayer is married, 4 allowances, withholding allowance amount. Now again, we'd have to go to the table on page 10-5 within the chapter. And if you look on the table for 2018 amount for 1 withholding for a taxpayer that is paid monthly, then scrolling down, we see that the monthly amount per allowance is $345.80. So I just entered that in here. We'll multiply that by 4, and we wind up with total withholding allowance of $1383.20. And by the way, the monthly earnings would be the $114,000 divided by 12, which would be $9,500 per month. So the amount then subject to tax would be the monthly earnings minus the total amount for the withholding allowance, $345.80 times 4, which we said was $1383.20. So the amount we're going to tax then is $8,116.80, $8,116.80. So we go to the table then, and again we have to look up this. Now they're married, so we're going to look at the right columns, and they're married. And then we're going to check the income that's subject to taxation, monthly income of $8,116.80. It turns out we have to pay taxes of $742.26 plus 22% of the difference between $8,116.80 and $7,413. And that gives $897.10 using my numbers. Part B of this problem just kind of demonstrates the withholding for employment taxes for FICA and for Medicare. In this case, for Part B, we have income below $200,000, so we don't need to pay a 0.9% surcharge, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So it's a pretty straightforward calculation. We'll add 6.2% plus 1.45% for Social Security and Medicare, respectively. And then we will multiply that by the amount of income, monthly income, which we said was $9,500 since they're paid monthly. And that will give the total amount of FICA, which is, this is actually Social Security, it should say. Social Security withholding rate of 6.2%. Okay, let's see. The last problem that I'd like to discuss regarding what is assigned is problem number 56, and I'll leave off here and begin that discussion on the next video.